Good morning. This is Kelley Hilbert from Alpaca Direct, and I'm here talking about felting. And specifically, what I wanted to talk about is I was looking on online for different patterns for felted slippers, and a lot of the felted slippers look like this. And this is just a little sample where I cut off the top. It's just a rough sample, but you can see how they just kind of look like a rectangle, and they don't have a lot of shape to them, right? So if I have a slipper that's like this shape and I put it on my foot, how do I keep it on my foot? Because it is kind of loosey goosey and it doesn't actually fit the shape of my foot. So then that got and a lot of these patterns out there are like $8 for a pattern like this. And then it doesn't really fit your foot.
Hey, Kel.
I'm going, yes.
Bunch of
Good
people
morning,
coming
everyone.
online. So I got Helen from Michigan.
Hi, Helen from Michigan.
She's
Nice
working
to
on
have
chemo
you with
caps.
us. Oh, awesome. That's great. This is a great time of
She
year
hadn't
to
really
do
said she would.
chemo caps.
Yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful that you're doing that. That's so awesome. I have done that in the past. There is a book, I think it was called Knitted Pink or something like that, and it had a whole book of things for cancer patients. And I have that at home. I don't have it in front of me, but I enjoyed knitting out of that book too.
Do you remember?
It's awesome.
Susan from Maine is here.
Oh, Susan, good morning. Nice to have you with us. Yes, today I'm talking about felting because I love the way felted slippers feel on my feet, especially when I have a slipper that actually fits my foot. So I got up this great idea. I'm sitting here going, why don't I try a sock pattern? Because as we know, here's a sample pair of socks and they completely fit and hug my foot. I'm like, I want my slippers to fit like that. Then I won't have to put a tie string around it to keep it on my foot, or I won't have to keep pulling it up if I don't have a string around it. And so I was thinking I could just make my slippers fit more like a sock, which fits your foot like a glove would fit your hand. It's nice and snug and form fitting.
They're asking,
So
did you knit those socks?
yes, I did knit these a while back, and this is out of Dos Tiras yarn, which is a hand-painted 50-50 blend of alpaca and merino wool from Malabrigo, and we do carry it at Alpaca Direct.
The heels are cute on those too.
Yes, it's a garter stitch heel. I kind of used a pattern online, and I didn't really follow the pattern. I'm not even sure if it was for socks. I just found this pattern that I liked and then put my own garter stitch toe and garter stitch heel on it. And I would love to say that I followed a pattern, but I didn't.
Peggy said, Mary says what was asking what the pattern was.
Yeah, it was just a chart that I found online. I don't think it was actually a pattern. It's just a chart that I saw. Oh, wouldn't that make some nice socks? And so I made it into socks. So anyway, but yeah, today I thought, okay, so I was searching online going, I need to find the perfect felted sock pattern, or excuse me, just felted slipper pattern, right? And so I'm looking and they're like $8, which is a little bit expensive for a pattern. And then this rectangular shape was not going to fit my foot very well. So I came up with the bright idea. Why don't I just make a sock pattern bigger and then turn it into slippers like this? So this is just a plain basic sock pattern, and I'm going to use this for, I have my granddaughter, they're like anywhere from 4 to 7-year-old little ones that I want to make slippers for. And this turned out great. And all I did is use this pattern by Tempe Croak. And this is a free pattern on Ravelry. Here's the sock that you can actually make that pattern online. And it's just toe-up baby socks on 2 circular needles. And it's super easy. So what I did is I used, her pattern calls for worsted weight yarn, and I used chunky weight yarn. And then this was baby alpaca, some leftover from Plymouth that I had. And then I used a needle one size larger. So instead of using a number 10, which is what you would often knit with this yarn, I used a number 11. And then I got these kid size felted slippers. So they turned out great, and I'm starting another pair. Instead of using chunky weight yarn, I wanted to see if I can just get a baby set of felted slippers. And so here is the pattern by Tempe Croak calls for worsted weight yarn. So I used worsted weight yarn, but on her pattern, she said to use a number 5 needle, and I used a number 7 needle. And then I did a little bit of math. So we need to take a look at the math that we would use when we're doing felted slippers. But before I get started on that, every week we have a drawing. And for this last week, it was for some lovely ultra alpaca. And if you haven't tried ultra alpaca yarn before by Barocco Yarn Company, it's a 50-50 blend of superfine alpaca and Peruvian Highland wool. And it's a non-superwash yarn that is a workhorse yarn. It's actually what I'm using to make my felted slippers, because when you're felting, you can't use superwash yarn because it won't felt. So this ultra alpaca in the denim colorway was the winning color for last week. And then for this week, since it's starting to get into the winter season and I'm already seeing all those Christmas decorations out there, I thought we could do 2 different sets of colorways for Christmas colors. And this is made out of Comfort DK, which is 100% acrylic yarn. Let's see what it says on the back here. And we have the darker colorway of Christmas and then the lighter Christmas colorway. And so I thought we could just choose between which one you guys like best and send that out to the winner for next week. And so a dark colorway of the Comfort DK, and then the light colorway in Christmas. Yes, and the Christmas colorways.
Christmas or both?
They're both Christmas colorways. One's a darker colorway in Christmas, and the other one's a lighter colorway.
What do you like about that yarn?
This one is, okay, so it's 50% superfine nylon and 50% superfine acrylic. So it's a nylon acrylic blend. But what I love about this yarn is that it washes up great. So it's great for anything that is going to get rough and tumble. It'll last and hold up well. And also it's not shiny. I like acrylic yarns that are not shiny. And it feels really nice next to your skin. It feels really, really nice. And it's good to work with. I like working with this yarn. It doesn't split. It is just a pleasure to work with. So there's a lot of things to like about this Comfort DK. If I was going to use any acrylic blended yarn, this is absolutely one of my favorites. So I'd like that yarn.
Oh, and tell them that there was a technical issue.
Oh, right. There was a technical issue this morning, and Jim said for the coupon code today, which will be for the 10% off of our Comfort DK, Jim's going to have to post the link a little bit later on this morning, because the back end system won't allow us to. It's down right now. We're waiting on that. Yes. Oh, Jim said the code when it is active will be TT125, Jim? Mm-hmm. Yes, Jim said yes. TT125 for the code for 10% today only off of our Comfort DK by Barocco Yarn Company, which is a great baby yarn, or, anytime that you need to use a yarn that is, you don't want to use real wool and you need it to be rough and tumble and soft against your skin. This is perfect yarn for that. So I just wanted to take a look at our felting and see if we could look at my adventures in felting using a sock pattern. Now, like I said, what I'm trying to do is go from this to this.
Tell them we have new neighbors in our building.
Okay. Yes, we have new neighbors in our building. So if you hear pounding, it's because they're making their area look beautiful. They have construction workers over there. So we have to be so patient and understanding that they're trying to get their new business set up. So if you hear pounding, that's what it is. We're just going to live with it until they're done. So let's take a look at the different things that I learned from felting and how you might take a lovely sock pattern that you like and you're used to and make it into felted slippers for yourself. Okay. And a lot of people will say, how do I know if felted slippers are actually going to work for me? You know, how much does it shrink? And I would venture to say, so when I made these, I took measurements of what the before and after measurements of these slippers were before I felted, and then I put it through the wash machine. And that was another thing that some people talk about is, can you use a front loading wash machine to felt your felted slippers? My answer to this is yes, absolutely. You can use a front loading wash machine to felt your slippers. I do that every single time because I only own a front loading wash machine, and it, as you can see, it felts the slippers beautifully. And did I open up the wash machine short of the end of the cycle? No, I did not. I let it go through the whole cycle. Now, if you're doing a pattern and you're not sure and you want to get an idea to make sure that your slippers are going to fit beautifully, what I would suggest is take the needles that you're going to use, take the yarn that you're going to use, and do a 4-inch by 4-inch in stockinette stitch and throw it in the wash machine using the regular towel cycle with hot water, and see and measure it before and after, and you can see exactly how much it shrinks. Then you will know what the dimensions of your pre-felted slipper should be in order to have it fit your foot.
So a question came up. Do you
Sure.
wash it with soap?
Absolutely. You put in soap and you let it agitate as much as it will. The one thing I want to talk about on the slippers is when you're doing the top part of your bind off using a needle 2 or 3 sizes bigger. Maybe you can do the last 2 or 3 rounds in with a needle that's a couple sizes bigger, because if you're going to have any problems with your slippers, you're going to have a tight cuff. That'll be the first problem that you have. And usually the only problem that you have is the cuff is a little bit off on your thing. So just make sure that when you're binding off, you bind off using a larger needle, and you'll be a happy camper. Okay? So when I did mine, this pattern calls, it's Tempe Croak. And when I did these slippers, it's a worsted weight sock pattern. And this is for little kids. So this pattern that I'm doing right here, all I changed is on her pattern, she calls for number 5 needles and a worsted weight yarn. So what I'm doing pre-felting is I'm using number 7 needles. So I'm going up 2 needle sizes, and then I am going to use these as felted booties. And I'm going to see what the measurements are after it's completely done. But I found that when I did these slippers, in the length, it shrunk 22%. In the width, it shrunk 20%. So all you have to do is do a little bit of fancy math in order to see if these baby slippers will be the same finished size after felting that these socks are, so that they fit your newborn baby, right? So the way that you look at that is all you do is you cast on and you go up. I'm not changing the pattern in any way. I'm knitting it as written. All I'm doing is changing my needle sizes 2 sizes, and I'm doing one more thing. And here's what I'm doing. Okay, when it says knit and stockinette stitch every round until your sock measures 1.1 3/4 inches or 1.75. So what I'm going to do is, because I know that this yarn will shrink 22%, I am going to add 22% to the length of my foot. And then that will tell me that I need to be, instead of making this sock 1 3/4 inches and then continuing on, I'm going to make it 2.15 inches and then continue on, because I added 22% to the length, knowing that when I throw it in the wash machine, it's going to shrink 22%. Okay? And then there's another thing that you need to do. And this is why I went from number 5 needle to a number 7 needle. Is around the width, it's going to shrink 20%. So if she has on hers, it does not say, it's 4.5 by 4.5. So the width and the length are the same dimensions, right? So you just need to make sure that before felting, this is 2.15 inches wide. It's a little bit wider than, and it's actually absolutely, it's even a little bit more. It's even a little bit wider than that. So see how it's wider? It's 2.5 inches. Oh, yes, I am. I'm allowing for 20% shrinkage. And I don't even mind if it's a little bit more than that, because I can wash it more, or I can, but the newborn baby, it'll give them room to grow. We don't want it to be too tight on their feet. So this is going to actually be perfect. And I'll show you next week when we come back actually what this looks like, because it'll be finished by then. But it's just an idea of a way to get your felted slippers to look and fit the contours and the shape of your actual foot.
Could you make them for like an adult too?
Yes, I have this other pattern. It's called Maker.
Oh,
And yes, this is an adult sock, and I'm going to be using this pattern so that I can make actually a pair of felted slippers for myself. And this one is a thicker, I don't know if it's thicker weight. The problem is that I ran out of paper before I couldn't print my front page. But I'm going to increase, I'm going to use the same yarn and same needles, and I am going to increase the pattern by 20% 22% in the length and 20% in the width. And then I'll know that it'll be the perfect size to put on my foot. And this is a free pattern, and it's called Maker, and it's by Emily Bolduin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it was just produced this year. It's a brand new pattern. And what I love about this pattern is it has the things that I like. I wanted to try for felting. It has a German short row heel. It starts the seamless toe, Judy's Magic cast on, and it has a nice stretchy bind. Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. But it should be a great pattern for me to do to get my felted slippers.
So there's a question: could you take Mrs. Hupp's slippers and could you felt those?
You could, if you stick them on larger needles. You could try. Someone said, could you take the Mrs. Hupp slipper pattern and felt those? And you absolutely could felt those. What you would want to do is make sure to put it on your Mrs. Hupp needle slipper pattern on larger needles. And then you could do that. First of all, what I would do for anyone who is new to this and you don't want to knit a whole pair of slippers just to experiment, unless you want to do the little kid slippers, which these only take about an hour, and I do 2 at a time, so an hour to make both of them. And it takes me less time to knit these than it took for it to be washed in the wash machine. So it is a pretty quick project. And I'm telling you, if you have not worn felted alpaca slippers, oh my word, they are the best things ever. I made them for Jim and myself. We like to use them in our trailer when we're going camping because they take up almost no room. They are so portable and compact for going in our motorhome, and they give you so much warmth for your feet without overheating you, and they are so soft and comfortable you don't even know that you have them on your feet. Now, we were talking to, who was it? One of our,
Peggy Mowry.
Oh, Peggy Mowry was talking about, could you talk about ways to make the bottoms of these slippers not slippery? Now, mine, what I did is you can take the slipper, one second, and let me just show you. You take this Scribbles paint, and it's also called puff paint. Okay, can you see it okay in that there, Jim?
Yep.
Jim said you guys can see it okay. So you would take that, and you fold your slippers so only the very bottom center of the slipper is showing like this, and then you could pin it on a piece of cardboard or on your foam blocking mat. And then you want to do the scribble paint in little, you can do it in any design that you want. What I would say is the thicker, more bubbly, protruding you make your puff paint, the more your foot is going to grip to the ground. So for me, I like it to grip a little bit, but not a lot, because then I don't want my foot sticking to the floor. It'll slow me down when I'm running around. So when you're doing this, you can put a little bit on and then just kind of smooth it out a little bit so it's not too thick. Does that make sense? And then you would leave it there and let it dry until it's leave it there until it's completely dry, and then you're good to go. Yeah, so that's a great way to make your slippers so they're not slippery on the floor. I know some people have problems with that. I don't seem to have a problem with that, but some people do. So that's always something to think about. I'm going to take a look at my list real quick. And so, the first question was the regular sock pattern that called for worsted weight. Using a needle that's a larger size for these small socks. I'm using a needle that's 2 sizes larger. For this yarn, for this actual chunky weight yarn, it calls for a number 10 needle, and I used a number 11 needle, which made you can see very robust fabric. So these are slippers that might last through the end of the earth. They might last forever. But that's nice when you make something that's really great, because it'll last you for a long, long time. And these little ones, you could even pass them down to if you have more than one child. And then the third question was, did you stop midway? And again, I did not stop midway. I just let the machine do its thing, because I know that I can stick it on the child's foot when that felted slipper is still wet, and block it to the correct dimensions. In other words, stretch it out a bit. So before felting for these slippers, the length was 8.25 inches in length and 7.5 inches around. After felting, it was 6.5 inches in length and 6.25 inches around. It shrunk 22% in the length and 20% in the width. If you have problems with the math, you can always let Google help you. Okay. And like I said, the most problematic part of felting is the opening of the slipper. Make sure not to bind off too tight. You can even use up to a needle 3 sizes larger to do your bind off and your last couple of rounds, just to make sure it's not too tight. Okay. For the simple math for your foot length that you would follow when you're doing felting is you measure the bottom of your foot. Say it's 9 inches. We always leave 1 inch for stretch. So 9 minus 1 is 8. And then I'm looking on here, plus 1.7. Oh, right. It's plus you have to add the 22% for your length and your 20% for your width. So you would check and see what the width is and add 20% to that, and add 22% of the length. And if you do not know how to figure that out, you can always ask Google. Google will give you the answer to anything. You could say, what is 20% of 8.25, for instance? And then it'll tell you that amount, and you take that amount and you add it to the length that you need. Right? Super simple. So, and Google, I mean, you just type it right into the Google, the search bar, and it'll give you the thing. So that is that. And don't forget, you guys, we are voting on Light Christmas, which is these colorways, or Darker Christmas. And that's Comfort DK. And then the winner for today, let's take a look and see who the winner is. Okay, so sorry about that construction noise. Let's look and see on here. I'm looking. Oh, Susan Whitaker. Yay. Suzanne Whitaker. Right. Sorry about that. Suzanne, you want some lovely ultra alpaca, and all you have to do is get in touch with us at customer service at Alpaca Direct and give us your shipping address, and we can send this lovely yarn out in the mail to you. And I will see you next Tuesday. I think I'm probably going to be working on something with headbands. So I hope you all have a great week. Yes, Jim?
Hopefully all the construction's done.
Yes, and hopefully the construction's done. So I will see you next Tuesday.